What is up, everyone? My name is Joseph, and welcome to the very first episode of ScapeBreak. I'm joined today by the master of montages, the expert editor, and the loser of steaks, Gunschilli.
What's up? Hey.
Now, a lot of people who will be watching this video probably know who you are, but for those who may not, do you want to just give a quick explanation of who you are and what you do in the RuneScape community?
Sure. My name's Tom, and I make videos where I zoom in and out and then back in and sometimes back out, but mostly back in. And yeah, I make RuneScape videos.
I mean, I would say you're definitely very well known for your editing style. It's something personally I appreciate because I'm very into that type of thing, into like motion editing and just graphics in general. It's not really what I do as a job, but it's been like a hobby of mine since high school. So it's something that I instantly appreciated about your videos. Is that something that you originally kind of intended when you started making videos? You wanted to go down that path, or how did you come up with that style or that uniqueness?
Not at all. I did not intend to. I didn't know. I actually started off as a streamer on Twitch, which I still consider myself a streamer. And I started just uploading clips and highlights. And then eventually I just wanted to string them all together and give it more of a purpose rather than just having clips on the YouTube.
Was it something that once you started, you kind of knew that that's what you wanted to do? Because I've noticed like throughout the years, I think the first like quote unquote over edit that I'd noticed was one of your Iron Man videos when you got, I think, Pegation boots. They were kind of just like overlays thrown on the screen, really more or less amateur. But like as it's progressed through the years, it seems a lot more creative and with purpose now. Was that something that when you started it, you purposely decided like, hey, I'm gonna definitely go down that path, or did it start off kind of like a joke, just as an extra thing, and then just evolved into this without you even realizing it?
It was a pretty big joke. It was intended to be a joke at first. And I have to give credit to Mr. Mammal for this, because he calls well, when he was really dry on the crystal, the primordial crystal, sorry. He was really, really dry. There were loads of jokes going around about like them being Jordans, and they were so rare for him. And I just thought of one day making a primordial crystal drop, or a crystal drop into like a basketball Jordans kind of zoom in meme. I don't know why. And it just kind of escalated a lot because I noticed the feedback and I just started doing it more. And then, yeah, it's just kind of was a joke that went wrong. Well, right, really.
Did you kind of like, I mean, obviously you've gotten better over the years, but was there anything specific you went and tried to learn? Like, I know there's, a lot of tutorials online on how to do certain things and websites devoted to teaching you how to use After Effects and Premiere. Did you, at a point, start going down that path, or have you been like all primarily self-taught?
I've checked out a lot of YouTube tutorials for sure, and rap videos. I pick up stuff off rap videos.
That's actually really interesting. That's not something I would have expected.
Yeah, I feel like rap videos are pretty raw these days. They use a lot of unconventional methods, let's say.
It's true.
So
I definitely noticed more of like at least in some of the newer ones, for lack of a better word, like a psychedelic feel to some of them, especially in kind of your maxing video. There's a very specific design behind them, and it's
that and like vaporwave.
Yeah,
kind of. I think it's because the reason why is because of the game. Like, RuneScape has a really classic and nostalgic look to it, and I feel like editing in partnership with that just kind of is easy.
That's actually really, and that was probably one of my next questions, was where the inspiration comes from, because like I said, they definitely seem like they have like a creative mind behind it. Like, it's not just overlays thrown on a screen, because I mean we've all seen that with Call of Duty montages back in the day, but especially in a lot of your recent stuff, there's creative purpose behind it, and it's something that I appreciate, and it's actually really interesting. And I like your explanation of that. Like it's based off the game. You know, RuneScape's very nostalgia oriented and kind of giving a little bit of a throwback. That's really unique. So I asked before, you know, if you've purposely looked into the training. Now that you have kind of taught yourself this, is it something that you enjoy doing, or do you feel like more or less you kind of have to do it, or you just feel, I don't want to say required because that has like kind of a negative connotation to it, but is it something that you actively try to push boundaries in, or do you just kind of have it in there just as just like a fun little thing?
It's wow, that's such a no one's ever asked me that question. I've never had to think of it really. Oh man, I love it. It's like I like setting aside a day and just messing around and trying to do something new.
I mean, that's the way you have to do it with editing. It can take so long to just even get a 2-minute clip. So
yeah,
you definitely have the dedication, and it shows too.
Thanks. I just, yeah, no, I do it because I find it funny, and I don't know how I can't compare myself to. I find it hard to compare myself to a certain standard of editing. It's really weird because I know there's so many different, like some people use Vegas, some people use Premiere Pro. Then there's the film industry stuff and the stuff Adobe do for the film industry, and I never know where people stand with editing. It's more of a kind of abstract thing for me. I just pile things on top of each other, remove things, and if I think it looks good, I put it in.
I mean, in general, it's definitely a different style than I've seen before, even in like I guess more edited productions. Because it is so, I don't know, just different. I'm more of like, personally, when I go to edit something, it's more animation, you know, After Effects, you know, very mechanical and clean. And I don't, because personally, I don't have a
After Effects.
I mean,
and I've seen your videos. You are some of your the stuff you do looks intense. I don't know how I could ever create something so clean.
I mean, most of the time, I mean, recently I've been able to be a little bit better about it, but most of the time it's just following exactly what tutorials tell me. But when it comes to like being creative, I personally don't have a very creative mind. My design background's very mechanical. So being able to see, you know, your creativity coming through with that, and it does come through with that, I think is very, very interesting. I think it definitely gives you that like a unique flair in terms of like the content around RuneScape.
Thanks.
But on top of that, I mean, you aren't just the guy who makes edits. I mean, you do have very entertaining content in terms of both YouTube and Twitch. Is there anything, you know, aside from editing, not even thinking about that, anything specifically that you enjoy about the whole content creating process, whether it be YouTube or Twitch, you know, the live or the recorded? Is there anything specifically that you find enjoyable?
Yeah, I mean, with Twitch, I have a longer history with Twitch than I do YouTube. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I've met my girlfriend through Twitch. Twitch is like a really kind of family orientated thing for me now. There's a lot of regulars who have been on there since I have, and since I've been watching streams. So that's really special to me. I like that about content creation.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely something that personally, like, I don't really see too much because I don't stream a lot, and like especially in the past, like the content that I've watched normally has been YouTube focused. So getting that whole Twitch side of it's actually definitely really interesting. What made you decide to start actually putting time into YouTube opposed to Twitch? I mean, you mentioned you started on Twitch, and like I've seen some of your past like update videos where you've talked about wanting to upload more to YouTube and, you know, kind of split your time. What made you decide to actually put focus onto YouTube rather than having Twitch as the main and then YouTube as like a small side project?
Sure. Mainly balancing jobs and moving out was the main thing. Before I moved in with my girlfriend, it was kind of, bills had to be paid and stuff. And since I've moved in with my girlfriend, having like the dual income has allowed me to put more time into things. So that's where I kind of focus more on YouTube.
That's fair. Did you have, I mean, speaking of, the financial aspect and the fact that it is a job now, did you always have intentions of going full time? Like when you started this content creation and, started getting into YouTube and Twitch at the same time, did you always have those intentions of going full time, or did it kind of just happen?
I'll never deny that it was a dream. It was definitely a dream for me, because I was influenced by a lot of the people who started streaming RuneScape on Twitch in general at the beginning. So I don't know. I never expected it. I mean, it started out as a thing with me and my sister. We used to just do like PVM together or stuff like that, and yeah, it just kind of developed, I guess.
I mean, I feel like personally that's a much more natural way of it happening and much more entertaining to see the journey. Like you have someone who's actually passionate about, the content creation, and they're not just doing it for a paycheck. And I mean, obviously the paycheck is nice, but having someone who's definitely focused on making the content with, it being full-time as a lesser thoughts definitely shows through in the personality and the content. But not to sound like cliche, or not to ask like a super cliche question.
Sure.
In terms of like when you were starting, when you were about to make that decision or around that time, what was like the hardest thing for you? And I guess this kind of applies to other people who are starting to do the same kind of thing or looking into do the same kind of thing. What were the things that you struggled with in terms of like when it came to that decision? So maybe not when you first started making or streaming, but more when it started to become more of a serious thing. What were the things that you personally kind of struggled with in terms of like viability, growth?
I mean, although I've only been doing this full time for about a year and a half, it was a very different time a year and a half ago. Twitch and YouTube, although the on the money side of things, YouTube's been quirky recently, but it was still very grassroots. I feel like we could use the term grassroots for RuneScape streaming now. I don't know. It's been
a while.
People started streaming on Justin TV and then moved on to Twitch. What was that, like 6-7 years ago?
Yeah, it had to be, because I didn't hear Twitch before Justin.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, between the past 5 to 3 years, a lot's changed. So I don't know. I didn't expect it to develop into what it's become.
That's fair. And on that, like you mentioned, YouTube being a little bit finicky with all their regulations, and I know like Twitch has their own basket of problems, but in general, from what I see, a more high level, I don't get too deep into Twitch stuff, but they seem to be a little bit more responsive, at least with their updates. But is something like the stuff happening with YouTube, is that like a serious concern for someone like you who does focus more on Twitch, or is it kind of just an annoyance?
I don't know. At this point in time, I think if YouTube wasn't a thing and I couldn't upload my videos, I would still make them, regardless of. I know it kind of sounds cliche to say, but I think I'd still make them. YouTube's become for me the editing part of it has become such a hobby that I'd still do it. So the money's not too much of an issue, but it's that YouTube doesn't really make sense in how they pay some creators some things and others, and the whole demonetization doesn't make sense. You know, you can you can be demonetized for having hardcore Iron Man death in your title. It's the AI doing it, but
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's the inconsistency bothers me more than the fact that anyone necessarily deserves to be paid. But you know, when it doesn't, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, YouTube does seem to be, just from like a business level, way more or way less transparent and just way more obscure compared to Twitch. I know Twitch had like that update where, you know, you could get in trouble for talking bad about someone. I saw that floating around, but then they came back, you know, a little bit later with an actual response to it, which whether or not anything's going to get done, you know, who actually knows. But in terms of the response, you know, it was there. It took YouTube months to come up with anything. So, I mean, as a high level, you know, YouTube is at least, I mean, Twitch is at least a little bit more responsive. So, I mean, I definitely get where you're coming from there. But to get away, I guess, from serious topics too much, the last thing I wanted to touch on regarding content was just the type of content, I guess, or the account you play specifically. You've kind of bounced between Iron Man and main a decent amount over the time. Has there been any reason behind it, or is it just because, you know, you just feel like playing Iron Man and focusing on that, or is there more of like a market read, like, you know, people want to watch Iron Man? Like, do you feel forced, I guess, to play one versus the other, or do you just play what you feel like, what you enjoy?
Well, it's kind of like I could put it on a timeline, I suppose. I when I was playing Iron Man, I quit because this was pre-raids, so there was only I think I pretty much had God Wars left to do on it, and Dragon Warhammer. I just felt like it was kind of slow for YouTube, and I could upload highlights from Twitch and put it on YouTube, but making progress videos would have been like a once every 3 weeks instead of once a week thing. And I wanted to grow my channel, in all honesty, so I wanted to be able to upload more than one video a week.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I see that like RuneScape's really weird in that situation where it's so hard to come out with, you know, daily content, which is kind of what YouTube pushes for.
I mean, looking back on it now, I could have carried on the Iron Man, but I'm kind of glad I stopped, because switching to the main just gave me that a little bit more flexibility in the content, so I could make more videos.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm the type of viewer who doesn't care the type of content. Like, I mean, if I like the person, you know, I'll watch Iron Man, I'll watch Dead Man content. Like, you know, that doesn't matter to me personally. But I know there are some people who do, you know, look for specifics. So it's interesting to see kind of your take on that. And I mean, I think in terms of, you know, just the personality coming through, it's usually better when someone plays what they actually enjoy. And, you know, even if that motivation is just being able to produce more content, like, it definitely comes through. And I mean, in the videos you show now, I mean, it definitely looks like you're engaged with the content. So, I mean, at the very least, I'd say you made the right choice with that.
Yeah. I also, like, I do love Iron Man as a game mode, but I just don't feel as if I take it that seriously, to the point where I can't boss with people I stream with and stuff. I know that sounds silly, because like loads of people play Iron Man, and they also have mains where they'll do like Corp Masses on or stuff like that, or when a big event like Inferno comes out, like some people who are maining Iron Man to hop back onto their mains. But I don't know, I've just been enjoying main content. I've been inspired as well by people like Zulu and Jace, who've been streaming their mains recently. Found that enjoyable content to watch myself. So
that's fair. I mean, personally, I like, you know, the mix of everything is nice right now. You mentioned Zulu and Jace. Like, I enjoy having, you know, that non-Iron Man content, I guess, because there was a while where it's just like so much Iron Man content, especially on Twitch. So I mean, yeah, there's definitely now a good mix of it, and I think all you guys, you know, you hit a good spot and you do it fairly well. But I guess we can move on from that topic. I just wanted to get your thoughts on, you know, one game mode versus the other in terms of content creation.
It's hard because I love both.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I do like both.
I'm kind of the same way. Like I have an Iron Man account that I play occasionally, but I end up feeling bad when I can't devote the time to it that I feel like it needs, because, you know, it needs that extra time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to balance that sometimes, even though, like, you know, I enjoy both modes, but it's hard to say, okay, you know, I got to grind out, you know, this, I got to grind out Herblore for this on the Iron Man and devote all this time to it. And then you have your main over here where it's just a completely different play style. And, you know, the juggling act is just, it gets weird sometimes.
And then new content comes out and you're like, man, I wish I had my main that could jump on this. And
exactly. Yeah.
like Master Clues was so hype, and I was like, I want to do so many Master Clues. And then my Iron Man was just like, nope.
yeah. You're restricted a lot by that. And even just like,
which leads on to all credit for Iron Man who get that far, man.
That's true. Yeah.
It's not as easy as, you know, you see a lot of pros on Twitch, but it's not as easy to get like that far. It's hard to get that far on Iron Man.
Right. They make it look easy because
it's getting easier, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be mobile soon, so we can just pick up snake grass.
That's fair.
You don't have to do that anymore, but
yeah, they do make it look easy because they've already done all that hard legwork for the most part. I mean, they obviously still have some stuff to do, but like all that mid-game stuff, that's where it's like
the crafting grind.
Yeah. So continuing on the RuneScape line of things, we're probably going to get into some more generic questions, but there are things that I think are interesting for pretty much, you know, every RuneScaper. But just in general, like what gets you into RuneScape? Like originally, you know, when you first started playing it, whenever you did, like what interested you about the game specifically compared to other games at the time?
Oh man, I could play it at school. Has to be one of the main reasons, which I don't like to admit, but yeah, it was one of those, when it was on miniclip, I could just play it at school. So me and my friends would play it at school.
That's fair.
And then they ended up quitting, and then I don't know.
I feel like that happened to everyone in like middle school.
I was that guy who still played RuneScape, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel you.
Were you like that at school?
Oh yeah, everyone played it, and like everyone was free to play. No one was members, and then everyone just quit that summer after they found it. And then, you know, I come back to school and I'm the only one still playing it.
Yeah,
it had such like a cult following back then. It was such a short-lived cult following, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just. I think it's a good game.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I put more hours into RuneScape than anything. So
I think people give it a lot of shit, but it's a good game.
I agree. I think it hits a very specific niche that no other game really hits. Like
and the places people are taking it nowadays, like with the people are like, people know the engine inside out. It's crazy.
Yeah. I was actually talking to someone about the same thing, I think yesterday. Like I probably, you know, the play style change has been so drastic since, you know, we all used to play back in the day and now. And like that play style change is probably what's keeping it alive, at least for me today. Like I wouldn't still play this game if the mindset was the same as it was back in, you know, 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've all grown older, and to play that game so more or less inefficiently would just seem like a waste of time nowadays. Like when I came back to old school RuneScape, I hadn't played RuneScape for years. Back when EOC came out, I kind of tapered off then. And, you know, I thought I'd pick up old school RuneScape and just play it for the nostalgia factor. And then, you know, I'd get a month of playtime and then just quit. But I mean, it's kept me here on and off for the past few years. And I think it's primarily because of, you know, that play style change.
Yeah. And I still think for new players, that you know, you don't have to do, like, I think a lot of people watch streams and see people who are very, very, very good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like Wooks is insanely good at the game. I know people say it all the time, but he's very, very good. And I don't know. You can still be a noob and have fun, but you can also take it that extra step if you want to.
Definitely.
It's very big.
Yeah, I definitely think it's in a good spot right now in terms of that. So that's how you feel about the game in general, I guess. If there was one major thing, and this is just a question I'll probably ask anyone who I interview, if there was one major thing you could change in the game without a poll, what would it be? Absolutely anything.
Oh man. Oh. I have many answers for this, but which will offend people the least? Oh no. Man, I don't know. This is the question that I will have to think about, but I kind of wanted the PvP armors to pass.
That's fair.
I kind of wanted them to pass, and now I'm like, if it wouldn't have passed, revs would they? I don't know.
Yeah,
probably that.
That when you get into PvP, it always gets like a little dicey because there's always so much contention there, and it's I don't know. It astounds me because I don't get into it too much. How upset people get on both sides about it. It's weird. I mean, I like watching. I don't PvP at all because I'm god awful at it. But I like watching it, and I like the current metas. I like watching them, and personally, as a viewer or someone on the outside, those PvP armors, and also someone who never goes in the wilderness, so never gets antagonized by PKers. I agree with you. I think, the PvP armors would be a nice change of content. But, I know there's people on both sides of it who are super against it or super for it. And it's always contentious, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about updates, though, because sometimes you just want to throw back to EOC and be like, oh, we could put this in. Would this work in this situation? But we've got a completely different game now where certain things that you may want might not work. And for the most part, I think Jagex are doing a pretty good job. Like, especially with if you have a look at where old school RuneScape was when it first came out and they first started being very enthusiastic about developing content, not to like bash previous Jagex or anything, but the Inferno raids, they're good updates compared to some other things. So I think they're on the right track. It's just I often panic about like the economy, like what's being dropped by what. Like, is there a place for this in the game now, or what's this going to do for new players, or what's this going to do for skilling? What's going to, it's all those like little things that are nagging away at us that we all get pissed off over. But
yeah, I mean, I would say I don't want to say necessarily a downside, but that is a consequence, whether it be good or bad, of this change of play style. Is people are way more worried about that kind of stuff.
It's because we have the power too, kind of.
Yeah,
like kind of do. So it's kind of our thing, but it's crazy. It's so like that. That's another thing about RuneScape I love. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, and I definitely think, I mean, you mentioned before, like, old Jagex was different than now. And, I definitely agree with you there. I don't know if you ever watched the documentary they made, I think for, like, their 15-year anniversary. But, like, during that time, they were in, like, a huge drop, like, downcline. When, they removed the wilderness free trade, and it's just, like, one thing after another. They were always trying to, like, backpedal with all of those updates. Yeah. And I feel like now it's a little bit more comfortable. Like, yeah, they make updates that not everyone are happy with, but at least the team seems like engaged. So I definitely agree with you there. They feel more inspired or engaged with just the game itself. And I think it's partly to do with the fact that they're not backpedaling now. And now, the company is consistent, at least, and probably even doing better now that old school has done so well. So that's definitely a good point. I definitely agree with you on that.
It's like that there's ups and downs, man. It's a company.
Yeah.
Some people see EOC as a good thing, though. So,
I mean, without EOC, we'd never have old school. So, I mean,
yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah, it's that whole era. It's always just what if, and I mean, you can't go back and change it, but I mean, in the end, I mean, we're at a spot now where I think a majority of people are happy compared to back then. So, you know, RS3 has its game. And like I've said this to people before, like personally, I don't think, you know, microtransactions and all like the easy escape stuff aside, personally, I don't think the game's too bad, but it's just not RuneScape. You know, it's not the game we love. And because of the fact that it changed so much, now we have the game we love. So you know, it's such like a unique situation for a company, I think, because not, especially outside of the game industry, you don't always have a company that backpedals years and profits off of it. So I think it's a really unique situation. I think it's worked out well on both sides. You know, RS3.
Pretty fascinating, actually, Jagex.
Yeah, I mean,
it's quite the company.
I mean, I'll give Jagex shit, you know, easily because you know I'm very critical of people I give money to.
Right.
But I mean, everything aside, you know, they've managed to come back from that, and it's just such a unique situation, and it's fun to watch just play out. Just, you know, looking back over the years, just to kind of see the change and how everything has adjusted. It's just, to me, it's just been interesting because I mean, that was, you know, my childhood. So, so the last thing I want to touch on is just one possibly, I mean, the last question I guess could have been controversial as well, but one last RuneScape controversial question. And this one has to do with the Maxscape. And I picked this specifically for you because I think it's a good question for someone in your position in terms of like where your account is and what you do. So in general, I think a lot of people have the opinion that, you know, the Maxscape is very overpowered. Like it has a lot of uses. Now I want to ask your opinion on that, but in the light of, you know, you don't do a lot of post-max XP grinding. So like, for example, the Maxscape is really good for rune crafting when you can, you know, use the cape to get into the altar and teleport back. So you save those inventory spaces and those clicks consistently over the course of an hour, you know, thousands of times. Whereas someone in your situation uses it more of a convenience, you know, when you're, you know, bossing or, you know, doing skilling, but it's not a primary focus. So for someone in that situation, the situation you're in, do you see it as, you know, overpowered for your gameplay?
Ooh, man. Wow, that's a question.
This is the one I deemed as controversial.
Maxscape. Well, I think I didn't know the intentions of, well, we voted for it, so it's like a I don't know. It's like the only reason I have a Maxscape is because I have the time. It's so hard to get if you don't have the time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But you can play, if you really want to, you can play like super efficiently and get it done in 5 months.
Right.
That's the thing. It's it's so big. I don't know.
I definitely think it's one of those
I don't
things.
think it's OP. I don't think it's OP.
That's fair. I mean, I would agree with you.
You go to somewhere like Corp and you still take a construction cape and a crafting cape.
Mm-hmm.
Like having a construction cape and a crafting cape are a lot of a max cape anyway.
Right. Definitely. Yeah.
And they're pretty quick. So I don't know. I
just thought it would be an interesting question for someone, you know, that doesn't do all that post max XP, because I'm of the opinion, you know, I agree with you. Like I would say like a step above quality of life. I mean, you've made it that far, so now we're going to make things a little bit more convenient.
So it's like all the diary rewards, really. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But I would say,
get the diary rewards done if you're a RuneScape player, but they take time. If you can't play that much.
Exactly. But like on the other side, like I do see where it, you know, the Maxscape could be overpowered for someone who is doing that post max XP, because you're getting so much more time saved over the course of an hour, you know, like 1,000 clicks compared to, you know, banking twice an hour. So, you know, I just thought it'd be interesting to see your side of it, of someone who because I follow like a lot of, high efficiency players on like Twitter and keep up to date with people like that. So
Oh, okay.
I see like a
Right.
lot of debates on like those types of things. So I guess the opinions I see.
EHP is interesting,
Yeah.
and like where it stands right now, and how how seriously people are taking it, and um, I really liked like Crystal Math Labs, and I don't use it as much anymore, probably because I just don't like skill as much, I guess.
Mhm.
I tend to skill more when I'm poor, so I do like loads of rune crafting and more resource gathering. But yeah, it's depends how far you want to take it, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that mindset. It does make a very specific divide, and that divide is actually becoming, more even as the time
I
goes.
am all for playing efficiently. I think it's very impressive. I think the people who are like fireborning in the GE and the, you know, I felt like 3-tick 4G mining is pretty cool. Like I know calling mining cool, but like the extremes people go to, if they're enjoying it and they're not literally dying, then go for it, man. You have a look at games like Smash Brothers and um, StarCraft. Like the amount of inputs and like mental shit you have to do for some of these skilling methods. Like not everyone does them for a reason,
Right.
because they're fucking hard. So I think it's cool that people celebrate it,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's taxing and time consuming, and RSI is a thing.
definitely. And like I think it's like that type of play is becoming more like generally accepted by the general or like the
Yeah,
average player, which I think is really cool.
I'm glad it is. I'm glad it is. Like I think there should be AFK and slow methods too. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
And I think like I don't mind Zaya rune crafting that much. I feel like a lot of people don't like Zaya rune crafting. I personally did lavas because I wanted to get it done as soon as possible.
Hmm.
But you know, I don't think if what would people be doing without Zaya rune crafting if they couldn't do like they would be doing lavas at 35k an hour or ZMI maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad the two parties
That's
are.
long. Like runecraft is
Oh
long,
yeah.
so
Yeah. I'm definitely glad the two fields of view are less on edge with each other, I guess you could say. Because I mean, like 3 years ago, like the general player looked down on high efficiency. Yeah, and by general I mean like the average player, which is way lower than it is now. And
yeah.
to see it shift to be more acceptable, I guess, in the social RuneScape
Yeah.
economy to be more efficient, I think is definitely good.
I think Twitter has a lot to do with it. I think Twitter had a lot to do with it to start with, and clans like Hexis and starting to like members of clans starting to be on Twitter and like the whole social movement of Twitter growing
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
has a lot to do with it, especially with like showing accomplishments.
Right. I was super surprised. I didn't use Twitter for the longest time, and then I picked it back up, and I was so surprised at like the community that the RuneScape community that's on Twitter. Like it's very active, and
It's an interesting one.
Yeah, and it's very
But
like
it's,
high level focused compared
it's
to like
cool.
Reddit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's still interesting
yeah.
to see
I've
see
started
that
to
point
look
of
at
view.
Reddit more recently.
I mean,
I
Reddit
never
has
used to
its
look at it,
times.
but yeah, man,
It
it's
has
cool.
its times. But yeah, so that I guess that's kind of the last question I have here. And we're pretty much at the time limit I was shooting for. So
Sweet.
that I guess that kind of wraps up, this interview. Is there anything?
Thank you.
Any last minute things you wanted to say, or anything you wanted to plug specifically? I mean, obviously your social links will be in the description and on screen. But anything specifically you want to plug? Any
Thanks.
projects coming up or anything?
Support Game Blast 2018. There's a charity event on the weekend. Jagex are doing 24-hour stream. I'm gonna be there. Drop a hey guys. in the chat. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for this interview. This is cool. It's good to see people doing stuff like this. I miss well, there's still a lot of podcasts that go on, but it's cool that people are doing this. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming out and being the very first guest. I've had a great time. And hopefully we can I don't know, maybe do it again in the future. If this takes off and we need a follow-up interview, I'll let you know.
All the best, man. All the best.
But that is it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you next time.